Welcome everyone to the Tuesday, April 16, 2024 session in our series on entrepreneurship and Asian high-tech industry. For those of you who are coming in from a different planet, I'm Richard Dasher. I am the host of this series, and I represent the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center, which produces the series in the sense that pretty much all the funding for the series comes from our budget. And we are very happy to thank our member companies. We have 18 member companies that were on the rotating slides before the program started, and we want to thank them for their support. Because without this, we couldn't do these, and we will have a few light refreshments outside if you can stay around and network after the program. For students who are taking this for credit, remember, today is the deadline for your comment on April the 4th. I still haven't gotten comments from quite a few students. So today is the deadline. Preferably don't write it during class time now. Timestamp. And so the comments are due within 2 weeks of the date of each session. The other thing is make sure you see the attendance sheet when it goes around. Yifan, you're the person to look for and find at the end if you haven't seen the attendance sheet by the end of class today. So I'm very happy that we're continuing our tour across Asia. We were in Southeast Asia last week, and this week we're talking about business to consumer industries in China. And I'm especially happy that we have one of our own to speak to us today. Mr. Zhaoning Jiang is the co-founder and CEO of Yeelight Technology, and he's also a visiting scholar with us at the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center this year, which means that Yeelight is one of our member companies and is supporting our work. So thank you very much on many different counts. Yeelight is a leading brand of smart lighting and control systems, and you may have updates on this, but from your bio, you shipped over 10 million connected units last year. I'm guessing mostly in China, because I think you're interested in going global. Before Yeelight, Eric was working with Alcatel-Lucent, and before that with the Hisense Group as a software engineer. He got his bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering at Ocean University of China, which is in Qingdao, which is also the location of Yeelight.
Yeah.
Okay. But I know you have something like 500 or 600 stores all over China, as well as selling direct to consumer online.
Yeah, franchise stores. Yeah.
So Eric, floor is yours. Thanks very much for coming.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome for everyone coming to the sharing. We're happy the weather is finally getting warmer. Yeah. Well, it's my pleasure to join the U.S. and Asia Technology Management Center as a visiting scholar. Actually, after the pandemic, it's lockdown for the three years. I'm very happy to finally go outside and see the world changing. Later, I will share with the story of how I found Yeelight and what I learned in last 12 years to make most of my time. So in next 45 minutes, I will share story all about me growing as an engineer and how I begin to go to the entrepreneurship instead of working in Alcatel-Lucent. And also I got some difficulties about fundraising, product development, and go-to-market. And the company went up and down, and we finally get through to become like a sector leader in smart lighting. And we also have some growth. And I want to introduce what I'm focusing right now and what our plan in the future. So since I'm in the hardware industry, in the last 12 years, lots of Chinese brands emerging They became national brands like Anchor, Roborock, DJI. Those companies actually founding almost nearly 10 years ago, 5 years ago, between that time frame. That's a golden age for Chinese hardware startup companies. And I want to explore a little bit about why this happened. And is it a coincidence or is something has some backgrounds to make this happen? And later I will show you about the experience that I have to like foreign brands, how they get into the Chinese market, which is a huge market, 1.4 billion people there. And lots of cities they have a huge middle class base. It's easy to grow in Chinese market as well. Yeah. Later I will talk with Professor Richard about specific questions you guys ask during the presentation, maybe online as well. Yeah. Okay, so first, before starting this company, actually I spent all my years as a software engineer. I'm very addicted to doing programming. I like to hack the hardware. Actually, I'm one of the first maker movement guys in China. So I joined the forum that's in the maker movements like in 2010. At that time, I'm very active in the forum to asking and answering questions. So it's like the Lexus operation system back 20 years ago. So before my thinking of starting this company, I actually spent lots of time in the programming, multimedia and telecom industry. So basically, when I'm 30, I'm a well-trained engineer. Yeah, and lead some projects in the company, and also I always come up some stupid ideas, want to make some change or take the shortcuts. Yeah. So what happens to me is, but working in a company and starting a company for my own is totally different experience. So I think part of it was for my personality, I want to be something different. I want to be someone different. I want to do something new. That's in my deep in my DNA, and it's difficult, when you are in a big company like a telecom company, probably thousands of engineers working together. It's different. It's difficult for you to really explore what you want to do. So the priority is to work with others, other engineers or product managers to go in that direction. So this tends to pretty boring for me after 6 years. So that time I want to make a change. And actually, before my starting this company, and I'm also a very careful man. Yeah, I don't want to take risks at 30 after having my family. So actually, I did 2 years preparation before I actually go to start this company. My preparation is to, I revisit my tutor in Ocean University. I go back to him. We have a very close relationship even after my graduation. So that's one of my recommendations for you as well. Yeah, always keep good connection with your professors. So probably later they can offer you very warm hands, to give you some resources to start something. And the moment that awakened my DNA for starting this company is when I go to the Chicago Museum of Science and Technology. That museum is a must-to-go place if you stay in US. Yeah. So I see lots of entrepreneurs. They invent and develop lots of technologies in past 100 years or 50 years ago. They start a business from like 2 people or a small group. They have an ambition to change the world. So when I saw the fiber cable and the motor, the giant machinery, lots of stuff like that. Especially the case of Boeing. The Boeing, I know they have some struggle recently, yeah. But before that, there's a Chinese engineer who is sent from Qing Dynasty to MIT. He graduates from in his 21, become the first engineer of a Boeing company, and then moved to Seattle to design the first aircraft for Boeing company, which gave me lots of inspiration. And I think maybe I can do something like him or be him. So that's the inspiration I have. So after the weekend moment, I begin to think what I should do as the career path. Actually, Yeelight is the first idea come to my mind. That I want to back in 2011. There's no IoT platform as a service at that time. So as a telecom engineer, I'm thinking of turning the technology I learned from Alcatel-Lucent as a telecom company, which collecting phones, to use that kind of technology to bring the Internet of Things together, to make every company can produce Internet of Things. We can provide that service to them, and they can manufacture the coffee machines or cars or something like that as usual. But with our service, we can easily bring the products online on the cloud. And the service is only in a scratch. So the ideas come to my mind is just is a concept. So actually, I don't know how to do the market analysis at that time. I'm not a skillful businessman. I don't know how to calculate the return on investment. So what I do is just get down to coding and make the idea to a prototype. So I spent like 3 months. So all the weekends I program in the lab in my tutor's laboratory. I have I have 4 decks. Actually, I was offered with 4 decks for free for like 3 months, and I finished all the coding and the prototype. So you can see we use lots of existing solutions like a maker community. We borrow the ideas from maker community to make the hardware available, and also we use the 3D printer to do the prototype instead of do the injection tooling, which is very expensive. And then later I launched the products after we finished the coding of the IoT cloud. Then the problem for us is we don't know how to market ourselves. Yeah, actually we are someone I know from the tier 2 city in China, which tend to not so many people know how to acquire the users. So we use very different approach. That we go to the university forums in every Chinese university. Actually at that time, back in 12 years ago, BBS is still very popular. So we went to the BBS forum to post the introduction of our company, the concept, and we give free accounts to the students to accomplish their like projects or experiments. And in a very short time, it's amazing that the daily user growth is up to 400 per day. So just after like 3 to 4 months, we acquired 500,000 users and became the #1 IoT platform in China at that time. So which is crazy for us. So we double our servers. We use our we hire some interns in the university to help us do the testing and the coding, and we also write a book to better promote the system. Yeah, so I think why we can acquire so many users is because we start very early. even before everyone realized what is IoT, we begin to have a useful platform, which is very simple but still useful. Later, actually, when we are doing this kind of a business, our money is just coming from my saving in the past when I'm working as an engineer. So the money depleted very fast. Actually, just after 4 months, the server cost, the cost to hire interns and to to promote ourselves, it's really threatening our the financial digits in our bank account. So in that time, we begin to think of how to get some money back and run some serious business. And we come up some ideas that we build a gateway to actually sell the parts to our users or to some companies like a B2B business. We help companies to grow the business and make them become IoT enabled. But since we haven't had many commercial experiences before, it turned out the idea is very difficult to accept for a B2B company to buy some service from a startup in China. So that doesn't work out. Yeah, we went to lots of companies, big companies, small companies. They all want to do a trial, but they don't want to pay. Because they are afraid that if we are shut down, they will be in huge trouble. Yeah. So at that time, I begin to know that it's time for us to get we have to stop and learn some ways to do business and begin the fundraising. So actually, I applied for incubation, like a hardware accelerator, to learn some business skills and build a team. We need to find someone who is good at making money instead of doing coding. So there's a program there called HAX. It's short for Hardware Accelerator. Back then, 12 years ago, it's one of the first accelerator that focus on hardware innovation. So this incubator will spend like 3 months in San Francisco for doing crowdfunding or fundraising, and another 3 months in Shenzhen, which is a harbor for hardware innovation, to teach you how to build things. So we signed up for that incubator, and we got our first 25K in return of our 5% shares. So, 25K actually is a very small amount of money, but 12 years ago, for my first startup, it's still very encouraging that someone finally recognizes what you are doing, appreciates your ideas, and support your dream. So it is a first very important thing I learned, that if you haven't got any fundraising, the first one support you with money is very important to you. Probably he will be your lifetime supporter, regardless of the situation. So we make lots of friends during the hardware accelerator, and some of them are from globally, also in US, and we became lots of good friends. So another problem for us, since we have only 2 people and we cannot even afford our own salary, it's very difficult to hire people. So what we do is since we have 500,000 users in our community, we hire from our community. Yeah. And lots of them, they just love the idea and love to use our service. They perform, some of them do free service for us. They help us to do translation or design the web, whatever they are good at. They will also help from the community. That's something I learned. Always love your users. Yeah. So after Yeelight getting into the incubation, we realized that the B2B business in China for small stuff is not working. So we began to do the first pivot. We need to turn our idea into something that we can sell directly. So since we already have a lot of IoT tutorials and IoT teaching license, we even sell some prototypes. So we found out that almost all users, they like lighting controls. So 12 years ago, lighting control through your smartphone is still a fashion thing. Just the AI right now, yeah. So everyone likes to control something with the smartphone 12 years ago. So we begin to think if we can build a light bulb connected and can be controlled with your iPhone, probably it's a lot of fun, and some people might be interested to pay us for the smart light bulb. So we begin to build the light bulb prototype. Even though I'm a software engineer, I'm still not very good at hardware design. So I actually go to lots of my colleagues back in Hisense Group, which is a TV company. There are lots of hardware experts. Where I go back to them and I pay them for like a fraction of their salary to help me design the hardware layouts. And I also sell this idea before I actually have the product to the community to see if someone is really interested in getting this product. We're lucky to get lots of support that the community users, they guarantee they will pay for our products. Yeah, even before they see something, and they say like $100 products for set for our first products, and it's a big deal. Like 12 years old back in China, so we really appreciate their trust and their help. So as I learned from the incubator 12 years ago, most of the hardware startups, they go to Kickstarter. That time is I think it's only maybe the second year or third year of Kickstarter. It is still very which is very popular in US, but in China, the crowdfunding platforms is only at the emerging stage. So we are very lucky to be the #1 hardware startup idea in the crowdfunding platform in China. So we got lots of traffic and attentions, and I can still recall we sold like 200 units at that time after the crowdfunding, and it's very encouraging for us since not only our community users but also some people that they like new things, they also support the ideas. And the most funny thing is among those 100 users that are not our community users, half of them are from investor company. Yeah, so they are from like Alibaba, from Tencent or Xiaomi or wherever. They are professional investors. They are looking for new companies. Yeah, for the investment candidates in the internet. Yeah, and lots of them are very young. So actually at that time there's a big time-changing movement come to us. Before we spend all our money, it's the Nest is acquired by Google at 2012. So that's a game-changing movement. So all the industry begin to know that hardware company can be worthy of a good deal. I remember the acquisition probably cost like $2 billion or more. Nest only have one part, the thermostat. So all the Chinese companies, investment companies, they are also looking for company doing the smart home sectors or IoT sectors with the similar looking. I have to admit, we are not looking the same as Nest. Yeah, we are not good designers, but we are geeks or smartphone players or engineers at that time. But so suddenly all the investors flooded into Qingdao to talk with me. Yeah, before that, I sent out lots of fundraising applications for them. I don't believe they actually look at the applications. But later, when the trend is coming, there's nothing to stop you. We just like got 20 term sheets in just 1 month after the Nest is acquired by Google. Yeah, So it's all in a sudden that we are not very prepared. One of the touching moment is the Xiaomi engineer. They go to us. So the funny thing is the Xiaomi investor team is a group of engineers. They are not professional financial people. They're just engineers. They build up the first Xiaomi smartphone, which is Xiaomi is like a #3 smartphone players in worldwide right now. But the Xiaomi engineering spirit, we have some synergy at that time. So we decided to go to Xiaomi to get our first Series A fundraising. I remember that would be $1.5 million US, which is a big deal for us at that time. So this is a picture. Yeah, this is a picture about the well. Okay, it kind of remind me the painful moments. So for hardware, if you want, for software, sometimes if you build something really fast, you can iterate. You can fix bug with firmware upgrades and software upgrades. Then in a moment, the website is brand new and the app is renewed by the app store. But for hardware, if you sell something, the only way you can fix your bug is to record the product. Yeah, and the record is very painful. So I told that we shipped like 200 units in the crowdfunding campaign, which the product is not ready for sale actually. Yeah, actually it's assembled from the parts we purchased from Alibaba, and most of the parts are not actually go through the testing.
Now, this was the LED light bulb?
Yeah. The LED light bulb. Yeah. At that moment, we have a very limited knowledge about quality control and the user experience. So we have tons of bugs, and lots of the light bulbs die maybe 1 month ago, or 1 month later, or 2 months later. We are very thankful for our supporters that they actually forgive us. I mean, they write comments, they are not happy, but they also look for solutions. So if you have a solution, we can forgive you. Okay, so we are very happy. And we, at that time, we actually got the term sheet from Xiaomi. And money was where to our bank account, and we began to hire some really professional quality engineers, very serious, experience electrically. We redesigned the whole thing in another 3 months.
So one thing I want to ask, the LED light bulb, even that first one that you made, was connected to a communications, to some sort of, was it Wi-Fi or?
It's like a
cellular?
Yeah. It's like a Wi-Fi. Yeah, Wi-Fi solution. Yeah.
So the idea would be to have one controller for the whole house, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can control with through a gateway.
Yeah.
With your smartphone. Yeah. Yeah. Which is pretty new back at that time. Yeah. But the quality issue almost killed us. Yeah, we are very lucky we didn't sell like 2 million units at that time. Yeah. So actually selling small amounts.
The more you sell, the more
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. So later we begin to, after that we learned. And before we actually sell something, we always do the small group user testing before actually we went to volumes. Yeah, that's the lessons we learned. And also, since we are also the first time, the newbie in the hardware industry, we also have 2 other major problems. One is the supply chain problems. Yeah, if you want to sell like $1 million per month, you have to prepare, all the products in advance before you actually go to the warehouse, logistic, and go to the customer houses. So how do you know you will sell $1 million products 3 months later? Yeah, it's always the puzzle, and we very tricky for it. So we are not
pay the supply chain.
Yeah, we pay the price, and it's another deluxe for us that we wrongly anticipate how much we can sell.
Yeah.
So the inventory almost put us in a shortage of money and cash flow.
Yeah,
which almost kills again. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The third thing is how to do the marketing and the channel. Since we are creating something very new. Connected lighting is not so well known at that time. People just use the traditional dimming on switch. They are happy with that. Yeah. And we have to convince them that our solution is better. But it's 3 times more expensive. Yeah. But so with 3 times more expensive, it's really difficult to convince somebody, try something new. So at that time, especially as a new brand, yeah, people don't think that, it's kind of not so familiar. Why should I try a new brand? Yeah, they begin to, not as easy to convince as our community users. So it is
so this makes me want to ask a question about the China market.
yeah,
So the first people who will buy
yeah,
in that kind of conditions
Yeah.
are the early adopter market.
yeah.
Is that usually pretty friendly in China, or is it less friendly in China than say it is here or other places?
Actually, Chinese market is exactly the same like US market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So because there's a huge population there, and lots of young people,
yeah,
and the middle class is a huge in basis. So you can actually easily access the number big enough early adapters for your new products. But later, if you have get early adopters, this is very difficult to scale, because if you want to go to the scale parts, you need to pay for the advertisements, and the user acquisition cost is huge in e-commerce in China.
go ahead and ask your questions now.
Pastor Yang?
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah.
I've also started part of this hardware startup.
Yes.
It's really hard. In fact, hardware is really hard.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering what was supporting you, maybe before you got in that. What did you had in mind that I was just doing the next, I don't know, IoT unicorn or?
Oh, yeah.
I think it may be one of the, could it be the room line?
Is it right now? Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right,
So just I told you that, it is something that once you start it, you cannot just get stopped. Because, after my preparation for 2 years, to start this project, I have invested a lot. And sometimes I have an illusion that maybe next couple of months, I will begin to sell the products, and someone will really appreciate the idea, and the bugs will be solved, and the product will become more useful and perfection. So people are beginning to pay for the money. Sometimes you need some illusion, to support you during the hardest time. And also I set a goal that if I cannot meet, get investment in like 2 years, and we deplete all our saving, we will go back to work. Yeah.
So it's like a carrot and
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah. So I set a bar that the limit that if I, after 2 years of attention, I was still not working, so I'll go back to work. Yeah. But before that, I will fully committed to this the project. Yeah.
Okay, so appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
did you get much help from your investors? So when Xiaomi invested.
Yeah, before, actually,
The
the best coverage, the best part of my experience is the guy called Zero, is a French guy. It's very nice. From the incubator. When I submit my applications and meet him in the interview, he said, "Okay, so you have you are a well-trained engineer. You have your dream, and you can actually hire people, even only one, only one from my past company, and you can build a prototype, and you go to me. you dare to, build a presentation, record a YouTube video, you send them to me. So you've got everything to get started. And this, I don't know if it's, that's seeing the good work, but that's very encouraging in the first moment.
So is he actually in France or is he in China?
Now he's in Singapore right now.
In Singapore,
Yeah.
okay.
He's a,
And he was one of your investors at that.
yeah.
Okay.
And also the Xiaomi guy, they come to us, they should, you can sell like several thousands of products. And still, you can manage the user community, manage the user experience. You can do the ad, you can do the software, hardware, and you go to the crowdfunding. They believe we are ready. Because when Xiaomi are beginning to sell the smartphone,
Yeah.
they only got those as well.
I see.
Yeah, so the Xiaomi engineer also encouraged us. And they believe with the Xiaomi channel and brands, we will go very fast to be a unicorn. Yeah. So can the audience see the screen?
Not yet.
I mean,
Yeah, but not many people are watching Zoom in the audience, I don't think.
Can I ask another question again?
Sure.
What were some of the strategies that you used to build such a successful community? Because it's not easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like what was the biggest attraction?
I think the part of a community building successful is because everyone in our company is very positive in the community. Yeah. Like me, I'm always the first one to answer the user questions. And actually, I write my own blog during that period. So I did lots of tutorials of how to use the program. And thanks to the makers culture. So all the makers, they tend to solve their own problem. They have their ways of building things, and they are very active to help each other. So later on, some of the community users, they become our friends, and they help us to answer others' questions. So that's very helpful, and we really appreciate their help.
I can add a kind of a follow-up question on that. So you engaged the community, this is primarily in China, correct?
Yeah.
What platform did you use to engage the community in? And then how did you kind of shift and pivot from the Chinese community to the US community in selling your smartphones?
Yeah, that's a topic later I will cover. Yeah. Well, we are not actually doing very good in that part. So that's the mistake that we want to correct in the future. Yeah. And the trends of social media is always changing. I think because of different age people like different platforms. When the people that 10 years older than you don't want to communicate in the same platform. You just don't like to stay with people with different age. So by the time 12 years old in China, that's Weibo is very popular. It's just like another version of Twitter at that time. So Weibo is very popular. It has lots of traffic. We go to Weibo to write our blogs and engage with our users. And later, I think people begin to go to the WeChat in China. So WeChat is the dominating social media at that time. And later, now it's like a Douyin, that's TikTok version in China, and also the Little Red Book, which is like an Instagram. Yeah, so the trends of the people and the internet traffic is always changing. So you need to involve, just as the platform, which is popular, you go to that platform. You will get the lowest cost of traffic. Yeah.
So let me make a suggestion. The picture is back on Zoom.
Yeah.
So the room camera is taking your picture now.
Okay.
I wonder if you stop sharing and start sharing again, that might help. Just stop slide sharing. And then start
Okay.
sharing.
Yeah. Can anyone see the slides right now?
No, not here in the auditorium,
Just on Zoom.
but stop sharing.
From Zoom. Okay. Yeah. So Zoom is okay, right? Zoom
Yeah,
is
Zoom's
okay.
okay.
Yeah. So
Why don't we just keep going? I mean,
Okay, yeah,
this is
yeah.
good.
So yeah, let's recap from the, if you want to build something very fast, then you will get into pain very fast. That's the golden rule for hardware industry. Yeah. So you need to do lots of testing before you actually ship the products. I think maybe 90% of the hardware business, hardware campaign failed in corresponding platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. There are lots of lawsuits on the projects. Basically, because if you have very few knowledge about the products or to develop a hardware products, you better wait until someone is really experienced and know how to do hardware during your team and do numerous of testing before you actually ship the products. So that's the golden rule for us, and which we spend like $1 million, to learn that rule. Yeah, yeah. And later we, thankfully, Xiaomi helped us to solve the problem because Xiaomi also, they maybe spend like $100 million to learn this work. So they go to us and they send some experienced engineers to help us build up some capability we don't know before, or we don't have. Yeah, so that's another topic I want to release about our fundraising. So Xiaomi's investments is very critical and important for our group because there's like a mentor, hand by hand, side by side, they teach you how to do business as a hardware business. So this is something that's very unique in China. And probably it never appeared in any other country in the world, I think. In Xiaomi investments, they call it the Xiaomi ecosystem. It's a totally different way to invest companies and getting profits. So the idea of Xiaomi ecosystem is born like 3 years after Xiaomi first launched their smartphones. So by that time, Xiaomi is already the #1 smartphone seller in China, which is super fast. They become like a $10 billion company in just 3 years. So they are growing very, very fast. And they begin to realize that with only selling smartphones is not enough to keep the user in your ecosystem. So they begin to invest in hardware companies, especially the IoT companies, to contribute products to the ecosystem. So they can also, they can sell connected light bulbs after they sell you a smartphone. So if you continue to come back to buy the reliable, well-designed and affordable products, they will have a lot of traffic on the website. It will, strengthen the compatibility in the smartphones as well. So it's like a.
So Xiaomi invests in independent companies like Yeelight.
Yeah.
And then Yeelight makes Mi brand.
Yeah, Mi brand products.
And then Xiaomi sells them through their distribution network?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they will do the advertising, they will acquire the users. And sometimes they will even, advertise on the smartphones. Yeah, which is free. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So in that time, Xiaomi invests lots of companies and lead some brands here, because lots of them become unicorn in just 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope we are one of them. Yeah. And like Roborock is a robot cleaning. They sell #1 volumes all around the world. Yeah. They defeat all the competitors. Secondly, Namud is specialized in the transportation, scooters, etc. And her is also another smartphone players like us. Zap is a wearable device company for health and sports. So those they always invest like 20% or 30% shares in the company, and in return we will focus our initial engineering to provide our product to them with our specialty. Like we provide the smart lighting category for Xiaomi. So they don't need to hire like 1,000 engineers to, which is very expensive in Beijing, to do the projects, learn how to do smart lighting, how to create the protocols, how to do the testing. They just need a product manager to do us.
So the products that go back from Yeelight or from Roborock and Zep and so forth, does Xiaomi actually buy them and then resell, or are you responsible?
they buy them.
They buy.
Yeah, they
So they'll
need,
buy like 10,000 units or. 50,000
yeah.
units,
Actually,
whatever.
at the peak time, we sell like 50,000 units per month.
Yeah,
With Xiaomi brand. So that's really fuel our development. Yeah, so this is we call the boom of a Xiaomi ecosystem. So during the 5 years of building up the system, Xiaomi actually invested in more than 300 companies in China. Most of them are startups. So the total valuation of those companies combined together went to $10 billion. So Xiaomi actually, they always invest in Series A. And later, other companies like Sequoia or other professional investment companies, they go to Series B or Series C to give more funds.
Yeah.
So later, the total value accumulated to a huge number. And it turned out to be very successful campaign, to speed up the Xiaomi's growth. And in 2017, all the ecosystem products sales at $3 billion per month per year. So that's a huge number back to that time. It even went equal to the Xiaomi smartphone sales in China market. So they built another Xiaomi in 5 years, yeah, but not smartphones, yeah. Wow. So that's 30 million users. Up to 30 million users have 5 more connected devices. And the IoT world actually went through in China at that time. And 600 million more connected devices were shipped globally during that time. So I would say that Xiaomi ecosystem is a brilliant idea at that time.
So this helps a lot by, funding sales while they're still kind of doing development too.
Yeah.
As your company grows, does it become limiting?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We will cover that topic later. Yeah. So I give a slide about our growth, our sales growth in last 6 years.
That's exactly what I was asking. Yeah.
So before, I think in the initial 3 years, we focused on selling Xiaomi brand products, but later we realized it's not good for the continued growth of our company. Then we began to shift our focus to our own brand. After 3 years, we begin to, so some of my friends, they refer to this Xiaomi wants us to be like a heart, like an organism, not a full body, but the part of a engineering facility. Engineering facility. But later we want to be a more healthy, more mature company. So we begin to compete in the e-commerce and the offline markets with our own brands, which is very challenging, but very helpful. Yeah. So after that, I will say we went through like 3 phases of our development. At the first, we are the maker-focused brands, like we do something for fun. Yeah. And later, after joining Xiaomi, we became we can build some fancy hardwares. We sell them online. And in last 4 years, we became since e-commerce always you can reach a peak easily. Yeah. And we in 2019. We became to become a solution company. We became to go to the traditional smart home sector. We provided design service for the smart home integrators, lighting designers to help them to deliver projects for every Chinese. In that way, we became a more mature and a more innovative company. So what we are doing recently is to by using the data we had in last several years, we use the data to train the AR service to help us achieve one goal is to just like this room, right? We have the lights everywhere. But I believe probably you will don't feel very comfortable about the lighting environment. You see lots of glares, right? And yeah, we can definitely improve that. Yeah, that's one of the problems we saw in China is lighting environment is very critical for people's everyday lives. Like this one, this room doesn't have any window, so all the lights are artificial created, right? But in order to get a healthy, productive lighting environment, you need to design the light and use the right lighting fixtures to get a right artificial lighting environment. But unluckily, lighting design is a very professional service. It requires skillful lighting designers to help. And in China, I think even in rest of the world, lighting designers are very, skillful professions that very few design firms can offer lighting design service. But there are lots of homes, lots of, like this home need to be designed by lighting designers. But how can we afford, they charge like 20, maybe $5,000 for this home design. So it's very expensive and very difficult to have. Probably they only live in big cities like New York or Los Angeles. So we begin to realize that if we can use the AI training or we train lots of, entry level designers for the home design or entry level design, that will be helpful to get a, lighting environment from not acceptable to good use. Maybe not perfect, but we can easily move like from 20 to 60, from Greece, yeah. So that's the thing we do. We build lots of software on the cloud, and like this one we have a.
So this pivot happened about when did your?
4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we quit to AI, actually we use people. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then later, after we did lots of design, lots of research, we begin to know the data and the designs is kind of a value to us. So if we can, extract the knowledge from the designs, we can, use the AI to train our own model and apply them to customer houses, custom projects. Instantly, we get the results. Yeah, we just need some training and make it usable. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the products we have right now is if you have a layout of a house, you can easily do the rendering right time, and you can analyze the lighting environment with a professional software we offer to all our shops. And you can easily design the different modes of the lighting, lighting environments with real-time rendering. So people will see this and get the exact lighting environment. After they move in. Yeah.
I have a question.
But this is also something where you could change.
Can you
it.
hear my question?
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Yeah.
more
You
outside
can do
lighting is different.
you
Yeah.
can do the lighting with different inputs, like the outside
Now,
weather.
the interesting thing about this is what the average lifetime of an LED bulb is 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so this at least provides you with, would it be a subscription service, or what would be the business model behind the kind of lighting design project basis?
Yeah, that's another topic I want to cover for foreign brands going into China market. Yeah. Subscription is very dangerous. Because
not popular.
It's like a habit of purchase.
Yeah.
The people in China, they don't like a subscription a lot. Yeah. It's different from US market. Yeah.
That is a very important localization.
Yeah.
I've seen that not only in China, but other Asian countries.
Okay. So nowadays we have lots of stores, and we have we begin to realize professional lighting design is very essential for good lighting environment. So we train engineers. We have a tech academy to train those engineers in the last 4 years.
And then they would represent your company going out to customers?
They will represent us, and they will see they will have a contract with the stores.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
okay, I think this answers Bing's question online, who had asked about training.
Yeah. The training is very essential, and it's different from other like,
Yeah,
which do not provide such service. So, one of the exciting things, every household in our ecosystem, they have at least 50 smart connected devices, in the houses. And back in 2023, we have 20K. We have 200K households become our consumers, and lots of them are referred by their friends or the relatives. So now we are beginning to train the AI to provide the instant lighting design service based on our existing knowledge, so which I think will be something you might consider when you start your career or your professional. You should consider how the AI can power your ideas and yeah. Okay, so that's all I want to cover about the Yeelight story.
Yeah, I think that's good. Why don't you come over and we'll sit down and have a fireside chat and talk some more. I gotta ask.
Yeah.
So AI is a big national initiative in China.
Yeah.
Would you have done this pivot to AI without that?
I think yeah. Actually, AI is very complex right now. I think it's just in the very beginning phase of large adoption for companies. It's just like the IoT, IoT technology.
Yeah.
Before 12 years ago, IoT is only at the beginning entry level.
Yeah.
Most of the IoT products even cannot connect to the Wi-Fi. Yeah. I think lots of times they just break. And the AI maturity of the AI technology is similar to 12 years ago when we are into the IoT business. It's very useful actually. Yeah. We used to train our customer support data, and the engineers are very capable. They always struggle with the data markups.
yeah,
Lots of very difficult to use. It is described as a very a fantasy of heaven, but actually it doesn't. Yeah.
Let me suggest you stop screen sharing on Zoom and we can see.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other topic I want to cover is the other B2C hardware brands.
Yeah.
From China to overseas. I found it very interesting that most of the famous brands or successful brands right now in US and globally.
We have your picture. Wow.
Okay.
We're back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. So I think some of the brands you might be familiar with, or even get something with, is from Anker, the power bank. They have lots of sub brands in speakers as well. Yeah.
And DJI, I think.
DJI also is very
important.
popular. Yeah. Robot is a robot cleaning company, and Inst360 is like a motion camera right now. It's competing with also very competitive. Probably number one in the sports camera right now. Yeah. So they have some common features. Like they almost all founded 10 years ago. Yeah. Which is the golden age of the hardware startups in China. Yeah. And their founders all have an engineering background. Or at least they have one engineering co-founder in the team. And they all target primarily in the consumer market. That's very interesting. Yeah. They are not B2B or like for other purposes. They are mostly for the personal consumer products. Yeah. And their products is very complex in both hardware and software. Yeah. You need to combine those two things together to build a product. I think probably the reason behind it is because China has lots of well-trained engineers, both software and hardware. Most of them have previously worked in like a foreign company from US. just like Axolution, yeah, the telecom companies. So they are well trained, they know how to do the thing together, and they are very hardworking. So, and they are also very close to the hub of hardware, like Shenzhen. Yeah, so they can easily build up a team that they, with full skills to do the hardware and software very efficiently. They can do the product iteration very fast. So compared to a Western brand, typically they upgrade the products in 2 years. Those brands, they upgrade the products in 1 year. So after 2 iteration, which will give them, you know, those brands have 4 iterations.
Yeah.
But the competing brands have only 2 iterations. So the features and the sales point and the cost will be, you know, huge difference. So that's where I think why it happened. And for Anchor or DJI or Insta360, there are no domain. There are new hardwares.
Right.
Yeah. They don't have players that already have like 60% of the market share. So they are brand new markets. Anyone who is doing good can win the market. So they become, you know, competing and they win. Yeah. But actually, from my perspective, I think the hardest competition is not between the Chinese brand and the Western brands. It's mostly happen within the Chinese brands. Yeah, which is very critical because someone has the same capability like you, you know, it's already very intense competition. Yeah.
Well, this is actually the origin of big globalization and things like cameras and televisions and even, you know, when Japanese cars first came into the US, a lot of it was domestic competition.
Yeah.
That motivated them to get extra revenues
Yeah,
overseas.
yeah. It's just that like the topic we are covering recently,
Yeah.
the US and China relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they have you know, they also have they put international market as a priority. So as Roborock's founder is a very good friend to me. In the beginning 3 years, their domestic market actually generates 0 profits. The competition is so intense
Yeah.
that they got 0 profit from the China market,
Yeah.
but they got 80% of the revenues
From China.
from Europe.
Oh, from Europe.
From Europe, yeah. Since Europe, the people, you know, the living style is mostly in apartments. And they tend to have smaller families. Like one living in Paris, their experience is similar to one living in Shanghai. Similar apartments.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, small apartments. So they need a robot cleaner to help them clean the stuff. And they get 80% of the profits from the Euro market, mostly from France and Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, because in those 2 countries, they don't have a domestic brand doing the robot cleaner.
So when you pivot, like you did with Yeelight recently, to this AI controlling for light systems in homes, new competitors appear, like Nest.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious, how do you see the future for Yeelight?
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting topic that I want to spend, you know, more time to, you know. Yeah. Actually, this for my within scholarship is like after 5 months, I went through lots of stores, lots of the big box retailers, and go to the like Best Buy or Home Depot. I found the business model is totally different from. Yeah, and people are very good at DIY. Yeah, and
Do it yourself.
Yeah, and the cost of, you know, to install something is way expensive than the product itself. Yeah, so the service fee is very expensive.
Yeah.
So that's something I come to my mind is if we go to US market, probably what we need to do is to lower the cost, making the service more, you know, affordable.
Yeah.
And by leveraging the data we have in AI.
And especially customer experience with service as well as with product.
Yeah. So maybe we want to provide more affordable lighting design service to the customers.
Yeah.
But consider the hardware part, I think we are doing good, but we don't want to focus on that. We want to focus on how to bring the service more affordable and you know, easy to reach for the customers.
So with this kind of sort of the quote decoupling of the US and China, right? It's harder to get US investment into China now.
Yeah,
It's
of course.
harder for Chinese companies to list on the US exchanges now.
Yeah.
Do you think that still globalization is a good path?
Yeah, I think the globalization is different from 12 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
but people in China, they need to do the global thing. Because like I said, the Roborock cannot get any profit from China
Right, there's
market.
no profit in the China market.
So that's maybe only the thing is different. Like for Yeelight, probably we will set up another company here
Mhm.
in US. Actually, it's like a
So there are strategies.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a US based company.
Okay.
Focus on US market,
Okay,
but leverage something we have already had in China market.
okay,
So we probably do another independent fundraising here
okay,
to do the local business.
okay,
Yeah, so maybe the strategy is yeah.
yeah. So I think this is a good time to open things to audience questions. Does anybody in the room have, you first, I saw your hand first and then back in the back, okay?
For the sharing, Ivy. So just now you mentioned that it seems to be challenging to enter the US market. So I'm curious, like, what are the challenges you are seeing? So just now you also mentioned you want to enter the big box stores here. So are you targeting a B2B market or B2C market, or and what are the challenges you're seeing?
Yeah, first of all, it's very difficult to for us to build a team here since the cost in US is very expensive. And as Richard said, that's the fundraising is not easy right now. Yeah, since the interest rate is very high. So the VC, of course, probably will be very difficult than before. So I'm thinking of transferring some engineers initially to from the beginning to work with local partners. And for the distribution and sales reps, which is very unique culture here to sell your stuff to the users, like indirect sales. Probably we will choose that approach first. And I think something interesting to me is the home builder industry. The home builder is quite very unique here to build to houses for families. In that way, we can avoid the intense competition in the big boss shops. Yeah.
In China, what's the online versus offline kind of world like, selling consumer products online?
Yeah, in China, the e-commerce giants, they dominate all the traffic. You have to sell through the Alibaba or JD.com.
Yeah.
So the only way you can go to your customers. But in US, the brand website and the omni channels are different.
Yeah.
So I think there are something we need to take into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Back in the back, you had a question.
Venture capital firms in the Valley, and mentioned your slide, the golden age, was trying to do 10 years ago, and now it seems like we're in the opposite situation now. Do connections still help, or it's just
The difference with
challenges that we have in place now?
So you're contrasting the global age to what we have now.
oh yeah.
So how much of it's politics and how much of it is other kinds of things?
I think why there's the golden age of hardware startups is because back to that time, the internet company had just become, they go through a series of IPO at that time, before the golden age of hardware. The companies are internet company like Alibaba or Tencent, they are very rich in capital. They tend to spend a portion of their money into the investment. But now, all the internet companies, they are cutting their cost. They are not as rich as before. Yeah. The economy is shrinking and the IPO approach is difficult. So the money go to the investment market. It's maybe only 1% or 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the 10 years ago. So that's become very difficult for the new company to get investment.
One of the things that I remember about China is how much items were discounted online versus what you pay when you go to a store.
Oh, yeah.
And,
yeah.
and delivery was really, really cheap. is
Yeah,
one
yeah,
reason.
yeah. And
Is that going to continue?
that's something I find very interesting. For US, the e-commerce market, you buy something the same price as offline. That's my personal experience.
Yeah,
So you buy online is only because the convenience to select the different products and the convenience to deliver to your house. That's the only benefit you have. But in China, the online e-commerce is destroying the offline markets actually. Lots of stores, they cannot sell anything offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the online commerce, they always ask the brand to give huge discounts because they are dominant giants. And we cannot sell anything from our website, so.
it's a power relationship.
Yeah, so that, in that case, if you go to China market, you need to pay serious attention to sell in e-commerce because online market, offline market is mostly for advertisement. Yeah, they don't actually sell, yeah.
Questions from the floor? Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you were talking about the Zhaoning ecosystem, it was really interesting to me. You said that they both sent you engineers, handled all of your marketing, gave it all of you for free in exchange for, equity in your company, as well as giving you money in general. This type of model doesn't really seem to be imitated too much here in America. It seems like VC firms are a lot more hands-off, at least like they could offer a little bit more. I mean, they gave you engineers.
Yeah. So that's I said the creativity of the kind of business model. Like Nest, Nest was actually acquired by Google, yeah, but not invested by Google. So the big firm in US, they tend to either acquire a company totally, or they just invest and leave them alone, right? So Xiaomi's model is very ingenious, I think, yeah. But I think because the culture of Xiaomi is like a hardware startup, they know the business to do the hardware, and they have some very talented engineers at the founding stage. They became the investor themselves to turn the role to the coach,
yeah,
of a startup founding companies. So that's a very different culture, in US. Yeah, like the founder, maybe the founding engineer in Meta from Facebook. Probably they just retired after their IPO, right? Or they become, a senior executive in the company. They might not consider becoming, transit to an investor. So that's different mindset of the, maybe the culture difference, I think.
So we've got a question from being online, and I'm afraid this is going to have to be the last one. We're already out of time.
Yeah.
Bing asks, recognition of privacy is different between China and US/Europe.
Yeah.
How does this impact your product?
Okay. Well, that's very interesting topic, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, our product also ship to Europe and US. We have to follow the regulation.
Okay.
Like the GDPR protocol,
Yeah.
or the US data has to be operated in US servers. So, but in China, it's a very different cultural experience because lots of the Chinese users, they like convenience rather than privacy. So they would like to sacrifice a little bit about the privacy for the convenience. We can offer two choices for them, and they always choose convenience. Yeah. So I think because just like the Chinese like the safety control of a city, some people may be not comfortable with the cameras, but lots of Chinese citizens, they like the cameras because it might
They're used to it.
make them feel safe.
Yeah.
So if you throw a bag leave the bag on the street, after 2 hours you go back and the bag is still there because no one is going to pick them up with the cameras.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
sometimes it's difficult to understand, but I would encourage you to visit in China And probably you might, understand what they are thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that's a really good point to end our session today on is encouraging to visit and keep good private sector relationships going. I think we've got some light refreshments outside. And so there's plenty of time for people who are here to network and talk and so forth. We will put Eric's slides up on our website, so you will have a chance to see the slides later. Eric, thanks so much for really sharing